Is somebody gonna match my freak? Freak, freak, freak.
Since the beginning of the beginning, we have arched our bony ape necks backwards to gaze upon the heavens. The gaping maw of infinity stretched out before us like a galactic golden corral buffet. The unending multitudinous stars, too many to count on our limited decatudinous fingers, sermonized our existence, whispered the questions of the cosmos which had no answers. What is the meaning of life? A most challenging question thus far only answered by literally every dictionary. What is our purpose on this spheroid we call Earth? And how much of that purpose can philosophers sum up with the word whatevs? Is there a God? And if so, what is his entire deal, right? And finally, are we alone in the universe? This most unanswerable inquiry has finally been resolved for all time. There is more to existence than mere human beings, for we are joined in this reality by freaks, and we must hunt them, apparently. The freaks must be hunted. This is Freakhunter. Freakhunter is the new computer game from Gooplord, creator of Caverns of Korst, and There Are Too Many Rooms in My House, a grid movement first-person shooter in dungeons most crawlable. Shall I tweak, or shall I freak? A cobalt blue diamond portal beckons me inside the mysteries of the game. Who are these freaks, and why are they so freaky? As the game begins, the player is word-kicked with text punches. Here we go. With each passing moment, their dimension grows, where once, oh my god, does this game have lore? Oh yes! Where once was structure born of human intuition, within are warped, unrecognizable mazes, filled with beings of arcane and unknown origin. This lore is tasty. Feed it to me like grapes on a fainting couch. Preliminary scryer's surveys indicate the pillars of this contagion are hives, the punctures from which these freaks and their horrible, gnarled spaces fill. To combat this, our alchemists raised the Freakhunter. Oh, that's me, I'm the titular guy, okay. A golem of stone and blood. Within, the soul of a lone warrior, the only being capable of entering freak space. Yes! Without succumbing to its influence. Now, Hunter, ready yourself. Your mission begins apace. Freakhunter does not feel, does not touch like an ordinary first-person shooter. Fortunately, the game delivers information unto the Freakhunter through stone tablets, commandments as tutorial. Unlike shooters with full range of motion, Freakhunter retrains the player's digits to operate on a grid, one step at a time, deliberate. The left stick is for moving, the right stick is for aiming. The left stick, the body, the right stick, the mind. On the left stick, left and right rotates the Freakhunter, twirling towards freedom. Every up movement is a step forward into danger. Every down movement is a step backwards, but paradoxically, not away from danger. For danger is around every corner, and that danger is freaks. Their crimes against humanity too freakish to recount. Freakhunter teaches the player how to live in freak space rather than presenting the player with a familiar button setup. More often than not, when I play a new game, the buttons are keyed in the genre-specific layout. This button always opens the car door, whether I am playing LA Noire or Saints Row III. This button fires the gun whether I am playing Quake or Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition. The benefits to this uniformity are obvious. Pick up and play is a much sought-after feature of a video game. However, the homogeneity of buttons and interface sometimes feels less like the inescapable byproducts of genre and more like codified rules that confine the game to certain unbreakable conventions. How much is this the chicken? How much is this the egg? The omelet cycle winds itself into infinity. Freakhunter does not have a pick-up-and-play presentation. If it did, the game would not feel the need to explain itself through mosaic edicts. Nevertheless, the novelty of the game and its interface does not translate into obtuse controls. Rather quickly, the game's map layout retrains my thumbs to maneuver within the grid. The targeting system retrains my mind to aim carefully. The scarcity of ammunition retrains my instincts to fire only when necessary and never spray and pray. The inability to save the game during a level retrains me to be cautious and not overconfident. the limitations of movement and action only feel like narrow boundaries at first, until they become a path. Now, that is not to say that Freakhunter is wholly unique in its arrangement of buttons or rendition of genre. All games stand on the shoulders of giants and have commonalities with what came before. How important, then, is a game's uniqueness? If I described the aspects of Freakhunter only as a game with tank controls, limited ammunition, limited saves, and frightening monsters around every corner, one might mistake this for a description of Resident Evil. Yet, there are no Jill sandwiches to be found in the dark caverns of Freakspace. We eat purple death and shit rainbows. When gaming enthusiasts ask, what was the first video game, they answer themselves with more than one game, and not because they can't remember, but because some of the early proto-games contained some, but not all, the expected qualities and aspects of what we now consider a video game. But does that mean that the first true video game was the game that met all this criteria? Or did some so-called first true video game contain qualities unrelated to the pre-existing criteria, but instead contained qualities worth reproducing and worth considering a video game? Does anyone really care what patent papers claim is a video game? In trying to determine what is a video game, are we not playing what Ludwig Wittgenstein called a language game? There is no big bang of the art form in which all video game molecules can be found, but every game has some molecules that can be found in other games. The quest to create a perfectly novel video game experience is quixotic. We cannot create a game with 0 game molecules, with no family resemblance to other video games, without creating something that is not a video game. Nevertheless, some video game developers do try to break conventions and will new molecules into existence, or at least combine these molecules into patterns heretofore unseen. Freakhunter has that vibe, a molecule generation apparatus, stuffed to bursting with ingenuity and purple guts. Upon completing the first few levels, the game explains more about Freakspace. Ahem. Suddenly, you find yourself among familiar material, the warmth of wood and brick, the traces of hands and life. What happened when they came? Your stone footsteps, shaped in puddles of foul blood. Your purpose echoes inside your head. You can feel it. They are waiting for you. Freakhunter has a fully realized world with heroes, villains, conflict, and incredible stakes, but the finer details are left out of view. We are left to engage in midrash, just up in this game's ass. Who are the freaks? They are purplish creatures encroaching on the world of human beings for reasons far too freaky to utter and engaging in freak crimes that must never escape justice. Who are the alchemists? They are the humans who made the Freakhunter in hopes of recapturing our realm from the freaks. Their names are not listed in the phone book of the world. A common refrain among some video game enthusiasts is to say, I don't need my game to have a story for the game to be fun. Okay, that's fine. Don't want to yuck anybody's yum. But what these hypothetical enthusiasts might actually mean is, I don't need to pay attention to the story of the game for the game to be fun. What video games don't have a story at all? Is that even possible? In the tangible world, the rules of baseball are not a story, and the act of playing baseball is not the act of telling a story, but is this as true for the spectators? Are they experiencing a story even if the players are only playing a game? Maybe, maybe not, especially if a story requires characters. But what about a baseball video game? I don't want to live in a world in which we do not bestow character status to Bobson Dugnut. Every video game has a story, even Pac-Man, and not only because of the cutscenes. Pac-Man is the story of the most bepacked man in town, and his conflict with a bunch of worm creatures who disguise themselves as poltergeists for unknown reasons. We may speculate that they do this to appear far more menacing to Pac-Man, as their natural worm forms are not particularly intimidating. Yet, considering these creatures can instantly kill Pac-Man upon touching him, wouldn't scaring Pac-Man away hinder this goal? Why is Pac-Man there at all? Because he's not there to exterminate the worm creatures. We know this because Pac-Man can advance to the next level without defeating a single ghost. Therefore, eating is the goal. Pac-Man is there to eat pellets. Pac-Man is hungry. The worm creatures want to keep their food, so they disguise themselves as ghosts for the same reason that farmers set up scarecrows in cornfields. It's easier and less messy to scare away the crows than shoot all the crows with super shotguns. The worm creatures don't want to kill everyone on their property. They're not monsters. I mean, they are monsters, but they're not assholes. They're just protecting their stockpile of pellets. And that's the plot of Pac-Man. Maybe. Freakhunter shares some DNA with Pac-Man, and not only because there's a blue ghost. There are mazes, there are round power-ups, and the freaks are bug-eyed monsters. Freakhunter and Pac-Man have stories, but actively remind you that you are only playing a video game. When the Freakhunter dies, the quote that appears is clearly meant to be the player. The Freakhunter is dead. It is the player who is spouting common gamer complaints like, "No way," and "What the," and "Bullshit." The game is anticipating the player's remarks upon dying in this video game. The game does not allow for an easy mode at startup. The player will simply become the Freakhunter and just have to deal with constantly dying at the hands of these varying in size purple people eaters. I was meant to be the Freakhunter, hunting freaks to save the world of humankind. But now, it appears that the Freakhunter has become fucking dead. This game is hard. The game mocks the player for attempting to exit through the portal before completing the goal of destroying the hive. Remember the lore? The hive is the freak thing. The Freakhunter cannot operate like Pac-Man at all. Pac-Man only needs to escape by eating pellets and can avoid the worm ghosts altogether, and his exit is automatic. But the Freakhunter needs to hunt freaks and blast the hive before escape is even an option, and the exit is not automatic. The Freakhunter needs to blast through the maze and find the exit portal, and there are probably going to be some freaks along the way. I guess you have to expect some freak hunting in a game called Freakhunter. I sure hope the auto-generated captions are hearing me correctly when I say Freakhunter so this video doesn't get demonetized. Freakhunter, okay? I hate this map. It is the worst map. Because of the grid movement, every time I turn, the map auto-turns. I understand the reasoning. It makes forward the same way all the time. But look, if I can figure out what forward means on a top-down map in Doom, I can also figure it out here, Goop Lord. Come on. Also, why is the map so small on my screen? Also, why are the markers that indicate the power-ups and exit not just, the entire square? Is straining my eyes part of the Freakhunter initiation? Is this an intentional part of the game's difficulty or an oversight? Impossible to tell. I do appreciate that when I freak hunt the freaks, their blood spatter remains because that reminds me where I've been, like a trail of breadcrumbs. Wait a minute, is the bad map plus the blood crumb trail part of the immersion? Because I don't feel especially immersed by inching closer to my monitor all the time. I do love the colors of the freaks and their freak blood, though. Before writer, director, professional pontificator Alex Garland completely shit the bed with his amorphous, both sides brain-wormed Englishman commenting on what Americans need to do mind fart Civil War, he wrote and directed a comparatively good movie called Ex Machina, the most dead-languaged movie of his entire oeuvre. In one of the scenes, bereft of dancing, a robot woman asks a non-robot man about his favorite color. Caleb initially says red, and Ava claims that he is lying. After a smattering of dialogue, Caleb states that he does not have a favorite color, and his own stated reason for this is that he is not 6 years old. In the narrative, this is Caleb being honest with both himself and Ava, but the playful matter-of-factness of how it is delivered and framed in the film suggests that maybe the writer thinks this is closer to being more broadly correct than not correct. Who the fuck does not have a favorite color? There are notable exceptions, of course, like those with color vision deficiency or a visual impairment more generally. Not trying to be ableist here. Some people just can't see colors and stuff like that, but for everyone else who experiences the color spectrum, who are these joyless, empty souls? Who does not have style preferences? Whose closet is full of a variety of colored shirts but owned by someone who never tries to match those shirts with their pants? And who has no preference whatsoever regardless of any circumstances? Freaks, that's who. I don't want to be insensitive here, maybe someone can only afford one shirt. That's fair. I recognize my privilege of being able to afford more than one shirt. Okay. Furthermore, maybe some people so actively dislike either aesthetics or the act of making choices that they own several outfits all roughly the same color. To those who only own one shirt and supposedly only one color, and to those who own several shirts all the same color, I ask you this: which color shirt did you choose? Because that's your favorite color. And if you didn't choose it like it was a gift or it was simply the most affordable, then let's get real here. You have learned to think of that as your favorite color through fashion impairment Stockholm syndrome. Even if someone does not often vocalize these preferences to others, or even consciously think about these preferences to oneself, these preferences still exist somewhere beneath the surface of the brain's planet crust. Doubtless there is some incurious, too cool for schooler proudly typing a reply to this right now, secure in the knowledge that any vulnerable expression about something as simple as involuntary reaction to an aesthetic is totally gay. But the rest of us recognize that, different stuff makes us feel different kind of ways about things, and it's not a big deal to admit it, Caleb. My favorite color is violet. It's great. It's a great color. Good job, God. You fucking nailed it. Thank you for violet. No notes. Actually, some notes. Violet is a spectral color that we commonly associate with purple, but purple is a combination of red and blue. It's not the same thing. That's what science tells us anyway. I love pretty much all shades of violet and purple, indigo sometimes, pink all the time. But because violet is a color in the rainbow and purple is not, it makes sense to land there in my spectral analysis of my favorite color, which is, in fact, violet. I played Freakhunter with the Purple Fade Xbox controller, but not because it resembles the blood of these twisted freaks, not for style-matching reasons. My controller is this color for all my gaming. I chose it from the wall of a video game store because it caught my eye, and I just liked the color. It's closer to violet on the left side and redder or purpler on the bottom right. I bought this controller months ago, before I moved into my new apartment. My window in my new apartment is to the right of where I sit and play video games, and it just so happens that the natural light catches the redder shade, illuminating it ever so marginally as video games ultra-blast their art into my willing soul. Anyway, these freaks bleed violet and indigo spatter all over the place, and it's great. My blood, the blood of the Freakhunter, is red, and it stays on the walls just the same. As the game progresses, so does the story. All at once, the light blinds you. These colors, this sky, you cannot know how long it has been. Perhaps this is some eye of their great storm, or perhaps they mock us. A yearning fills you. You wish you could draw breath as your stones shudder and complain. The vessel yet holds fast. Obsidian sand drifts into the water as you pass. The Freakhunter wanders the hedge maze. I cannot count how many times I died miserably and alone on the shores of this icy, cold nowhere, but I eventually doom-scrabbled my lonesome way past the freak horizon to the final and most nastiest levels. Truly here, my freak was matched. Slay the Princess is my Game of the Year 2023, even though I did not play it until earlier this year. Felvedake is my Game of the Year 2024. Freakhunter was released at the tail end of December 2023 on itch, removing itself from the GOTY conversation. Freakhunter was then released on Steam mere days later in January 2024. It exists in the space between spaces, and is therefore my Space Between Spaces Game of the Year. And why not? I adore all the things that this game wants to be. The goof of the death quotes, the doof of the freaks, the pugnacity of these crimes, the audacity of these rhymes. Freakhunter defies all emotional expectations. It is ridiculous and earnest. It never passes through the threshold of farce and instead plants its freak flag in super sincerity. Less tragicomedy, more beep boop. That's my strawberry jam, and you know it is because you watched the first minute of this video. Why can't I experience multiple powerful emotions at the same time, instead of delineating the boundaries of these sentiments into separate colors of the pathos spectrum? Haven't you ever been hangry? Give me your most purple feelings. If you believe that this goof-tastic weirdo game for weirdos cannot be sincere and heartfelt, then you have never watched crude pixels gaze into the distance and started crying into a bowl of peanut butter crunch. the most beautiful thing you have ever seen. Hi everyone. If you want to support what I do, please like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment under this video. I also have a Patreon at patreon.com/renegadecut. I'll see you soon.